It's that card girl, and today we're going to be taking a look at the One Piece card game's Starter Deck 31. This is the red Monkey.D.Luffy starter deck. This is one of the 6 new starter decks that came out for One Piece card game recently, and we are going to be taking a look at all of them over the next couple of weeks. As always, the back of the box lets you know what all comes inside, including the rarity distribution, but let's go ahead and open this box up so we can take a look at everything ourselves. I will go ahead and say that Hans is the one who's done the One Piece starter decks most between the two of us, so I do apologize for the fact that I am struggling so hard to open this box up. But hey, I managed to get it opened up, so let's go ahead and get everything out from inside of it. And for once, this paper playmat quick start guide actually came out with everything else. It has the paper playmat on one side and, well, you guessed it, the quick start guide on the other. Then we have our deck sandwich, and underneath it we have our pack of OP16, the Time of Battle. I will go ahead and say right off the top that we usually set whatever pack comes inside the deck boxes aside to open up at the end of the video, but for these 6 starter decks, we're actually going to open them up together as a pack smash once we are done with all of our starter deck videos. Kind of like a celebration. With that out of the way though, let's go ahead and get a quick camera angle change so we can take a closer look at our Monkey.D.Luffy deck sandwich. As always, we have the leader on top and the Dawn cards on bottom, with our 50 card deck sandwiched in between. Now, let me just go ahead and struggle entirely too much to unwrap the plastic wrap from around this so we can take a closer look. This might be a good time for me to remind you that this is a channel where 2 people with bad hands open cards. But hey, I have finally defeated the plastic wrap, and now we get to take a look at what all cards are in our ST31. Starting, of course, with our 1 copy of our 5 life, 5000 power red Monkey.D.Luffy leader. And then we have 2 copies of the 5 cost, 3k power, 1k counter Sanji, which is one of the 2 SRs for this starter deck. Then we have our other SR, which we get 2 copies of. It's the 7 cost, 9000 power Monkey.D.Luffy. And then we have 4 copies of the 5 cost 6k power Genbei with a 1k counter. Then we have 4 copies of the 2 cost 3000 power Brook with a 1000 counter. There's 2 copies of the 1 cost stage 1000 Sunny. 4 copies of the 1 cost 2000 power Nami with a 1k counter. Four copies of the 5 cost 6k power Usopp with a 2k counter. 4 copies of the 3 cost 4k power Nico Robin with a 1k counter. 4 copies of the 4 cost 4k power Frankie with a 2k counter. 4 copies of the 7 cost 8k power Roronoa Zoro. 4 copies of the 4 cost 5k power Tony Chopper with a 1k counter. 4 copies of the 1 cost 2k power Monkey.D.Luffy with a 1k counter. On to events, we have 4 copies of the no cost Bad Manners Kick Course. and 4 copies of the 1-cost Gum Gum Gatling gun. And then, of course, we have our 10 Dawn cards. Now that we've seen what all cards come inside of this deck, let's talk a little bit more about what these cards do that come inside of our deck. Starting with our ST21 Monkey.D.Luffy leader. And no, I did not misspeak. I know that this is Starter Deck 31, but this Monkey.D.Luffy leader is the same Monkey.D.Luffy leader from Starter Deck 21. And if you want to double check I'm right, you can check out the card number in the bottom right hand side of the card where it says that this is ST21001. But this Monkey.D.Luffy leader lets you once per turn during your main phase for 1 Dawn give up to 2 rested Dawn cards to one of your characters. Both of the SR cards for this deck though are new, so let's start by talking about Sanji, who, whenever you play him, lets you draw a card and play a Straw Hat Crew type character that costs 5 or less that is not named Sanji from your hand. And if you give him 2 Dawn, then he gains Rush and becomes 5k power. Then we have our SR Monkey.D.Luffy, which whenever you play him lets you give one of your opponent's characters minus 1000 power for the turn for each Straw Hat Crew type card that you have on your field. And if you have 3 or more given Dawn cards, then he has Rush, which means that you can attack on the turn in which you play him. Brook here also relies on you having given a total of 3 or more Dawn cards, because if that's true, during your opponent's turn, he becomes a blocker and gets an additional 3k power, making him a 6k blocker. And speaking of blockers, there is also Jinbei, who is a blocker no matter if you have given Dawn or not. And whenever you play Jinbei, you also get to play a 1-cost Straw Hat Crew card from your hand and draw a card. And then we have the 3rd iteration of a red Thousand Sunny stage card. This one, during your main phase, lets you rest it and give one of your rested Dawn to a Monkey.D.Luffy card. And whenever you play this stage, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal a Straw Hat Crew type card, and put it in your hand. Then you put the rest of them at the bottom of your deck in any order. And this Thousand Sunny stage is new to this deck, but it's, like I said, the 3rd iteration of a red Thousand Sunny stage. And then we have our red Nami Searcher card. She has been around since OP01, but with this starter deck, they've actually given her X block, which means that she is legal forever until she is banned. And like I said, she's a searcher, so whenever you play her, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal a Straw Hat Crew type card besides one named Nami and add it to your hand. And the rest of them go to the bottom of your deck in any order. Our 1-cost Monkey.D.Luffy card started off its life in Starter Deck 23, and it still does the same thing it did back then, which during your main phase lets you rest one of your Dawn cards and this Monkey.D.Luffy to be able to give one of your opponent's characters minus 1k power for the turn. This Tony Chopper was originally a Japanese McDonald's promo and also has lived its life as part of a store promo kit, but it is a blocker and lets you give a rested Dawn to your leader whenever you play it. Usopp, Frankie, and Nico Robin all came out of OP13. Usopp is just a basic card with no effect. Frankie lets you once per turn during your turn give all of your characters plus 2k power during the turn whenever your opponent activates an event. And Nico Robin, if you give 2 Dawn to Nico Robin, when you attack, you give one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power until the end of your opponent's next turn. And since you had to give Nico Robin 2 Dawn to do this, that makes Nico Robin 6k power. Bad Manners Kick Course started off its life in OP04. This no-cost event is a counter card that, technical cost, has you trashing 1 card from your hand, but it lets you give one of your leader or characters 3k power for the battle. And if you draw this from your life, the trigger for it lets you give one of your opponent's leader or characters minus 3k power for the turn. Roronoa Zoro started his life in OP14 and has Rush, and whenever you attack with Zoro, you get to give one of your opponent's characters minus 1k power for the turn. I know that you're going to be surprised to learn that Gum Gum Gatling Gun also started its life in a different set besides this starter deck. This one started in OP13. This one-cost event is played during your main phase to give one of your Rested Dawn cards to one of your Monkey.D.Luffy cards, and then you can give one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power for the turn. And the trigger for this card just has you giving one of your opponent's characters minus 2k power for the turn. So honestly, you're really gonna want to hope to use this during your main phase and not have to use its trigger effect. Before we move on, I do want to talk about the way that they packaged this deck, because I found it very interesting at first that they put the Thousand Sunny stage card in the middle of the characters. But then I realized that they put the 5 new cards for this starter deck at the front and then followed it up with all of the reprints. And guys, this deck has a lot of reprints. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the upgrades that you can do for this deck. Hans? Ah, I see. You're right, since a lot of these cards are reprints, and the ones that aren't are kind of really basic, and the fact that this leader is the ST21 leader, we kind of don't really need to talk much about upgrades. So we're instead going to talk about the Blue Nami leader, the Promo 117 Blue Nami leader. If you want to see some upgrades for this deck, then check out our ST21 video. There'll be a link for it down in the description and also a card on your screen. But for now, let's talk about the Promo 117 Blue Nami leader. This is the same Nami leader as before, except now you can only play East Blue cards. And when I say the same Nami leader as before, I mean the Nami leader where if you run out of cards in your deck, you win instead of lose. The problem though with this new version of the Nami is that you can only play East Blue cards. And there's not enough East Blue cards that are currently in rotation to be able to build a deck for this leader. Block 1 had 20 blue East Blue cards. Block 2 has 5 blue East Blue cards. Block 3 has 3 blue East Blue cards, and Block 4 has only had 2 East Blue cards come out, both in EV03. Hans used to really enjoy playing this Nami leader, but with what they've done to it now and the fact that there has been almost no support whatsoever, and I use almost very lightly because let's be real, there has been no support for this new Nami with the East Blue requirement. They've really made it they've really made it impossible to play this leader in regular format. Hopefully in the upcoming sets, we get some more blue East Blue cards, and especially blue East Blue cards that actually work really well for this deck, that have you trashing cards from your hand instead of just putting them on the bottom of your deck. Because that's what most of the cards that are around can do now, is just have you look at the top card of your deck and put it in the bottom of your deck. This leader and its alternative win condition is actually super fun, and I always used to really enjoy playing against Hans's Nami deck. And I'm not gonna lie, Hans and I can definitely still play with the banned version of Nami in our home games, but sometimes you just want to go play at your LGS, and you want to be able to play a legal deck with legal cards that haven't been rotated out. I'm not gonna lie, instead of reprinting the ST21 Luffy as the ST31 Luffy, it would have been cool to see a deck of East Blue cards. Maybe not with that Nami leader specifically, but just something to get the ball rolling and get those players that enjoy the alternate win condition Nami leader something to play with at their LGS. If you watch all of our videos, or you watch our Gundam videos as well, you know that I actually recently was complaining about the new Gundam set, but this is a little complaint compared to a big complaint against Gundam. And you know, I think that this is really enough complaining for right now. So I'm going to go ahead and remind you that we put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays with shorts on Sundays. We focus mainly on One Piece, Gundam, Lorcana, Pokemon, and Magic the Gathering. Make sure you're following us over on Instagram if you haven't already at thatcardgirl.tcg. There's a link for it down in the description. And speaking of links in the description, there's a link to our Discord channel down there as well. And keep in mind, in the next couple of weeks, we are going to be putting out extra videos throughout the week to cover these 6 new One Piece starter decks that have come out. And whenever we finally covered the last one, our pack smash that weekend is going to be all of the packs that came in the deck boxes. So keep an eye out for that. And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and let that big fan of alternate win conditions in your life know about us. That Card Girl out!